In 664, the English Church, still in its infancy, was looking for a new head after the death of the sixth Archbishop of Canterbury, Jude Edit. Fortunately, there seemed to be the ideal candidate to replace him, in the shape of a man named Vicard, who was described by Bede as an English priest with great experience in church administration. With Vicard's election seemingly settled, he was sent to Rome to gain the approval of Pope Vitalian. Unfortunately, there would be a twist in the tale, as a plague was sweeping through Rome, which Vicard and most of his companions contracted. Vicard died, and Vitalian and the English would have to find another potential archbishop. Pope Vitalian thought he had just a man. He knew of an abbot named Hadrian, who originated from North Africa and who was a learned man and an experienced administrator. But he was also a modest man. When Vitalian asked Hadrian to become the next Archbishop of Canterbury, Hadrian politely declined, saying he was not fit for such high dignity. Hadrian suggested another possibility, a man named Andrew, but Andrew too declined the position of Archbishop on the grounds of ill health. Eventually, the candidate chosen by Vitalian and Hadrian was a Byzantine named Theodore of Tarsus, whom Hadrian would assist in his new position in a far-off and alien land. Theodore of Tarsus would preside over the church of a nation who had not long ago been mixed in its beliefs, with paganism still very much lingering and rival English kingdoms standing hostile against each other. Such divisions are shown by Bede when he says that Theodore was the first archbishop whom the entire English church obeyed, which also indicates something of the authority that Theodore commanded. He would be Archbishop of Canterbury for over 20 years, ably supported by Hadrian. Theodore was not a young man, well into his 60s, when he arrived on English shores, but clearly there was still a good deal of energy burning inside of him. On arriving in his new homeland, Theodore travelled across the various English kingdoms, where he and Hadrian were greeted with warmth and enthusiasm. With their sharp minds and even sharper tongues, both Theodore and Hadrian were able to drive home the benefits of Christianity to a people still new to the religion and, in some cases, unsure of it. With their scholarly minds put to full use, Theodore and Hadrian ensured that learning amongst the English prospered, with Bede writing. They attracted a large number of students, into whose minds they poured the waters of wholesome knowledge day by day. They taught the pupils poetry, astronomy, and the calculation of the church calendar. Some of the students, still alive today, Bede was writing in the 730s, with Theodore dying in 690, are as proficient in Greek and Latin as they are in their native tongue. Although England, as we know it now, was still a far-off notion, the land that Theodore and Hadrian now called their home was unquestionably entering a new and more enlightened age. Lingering traces of paganism would now become overwhelmed by a truly Christian land. To ensure that the English Church remained singing from the same hymn sheet and continued to maintain good practices, Theodore held a church synod in Hartford in 673, the first of its kind amongst the English, where Theodore would meet with the most prominent English churchmen of the day. Bishops from all the English kingdoms attended, ensuring Theodore kept a tight hold of church unity. Among the decrees issued by Theodore at the synod included clarifying the practice of the celebration of Easter, behaviour expected from his bishops and the rest of the clergy, and asserting 2 synods were to be held per year, although this seems impractical and not to have happened. Theodore was also not afraid of making difficult decisions. In 675 he removed Winfrid from his bishopric in Mercia for some disobedience. showing the expectations that Theodore had of his clergy. In 679, with his standing flourishing amongst the English, Theodore intervened in a dispute between Egfrid of Northumbria and Ethelred of Mercia, helping to restore peace between the two kings. Theodore would die in his late 80s in 690, a show of the man's inner strength to reach such an age. There is no question that Theodore of Tarsus and his equally outstanding companion Hadrian are two of the most important men in the early history of the English Church. On their arrival in England, Christianity was still growing, but these two men made it flourish. Learning began to prosper, and the church itself was far more disciplined and organized. Theodore and Hadrian, from far off lands, made a significant contribution to England's Christian identity.